Let's be clear. Your life is cluttered with things that simply don't serve you, things that hold you back and drain your energy. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you continue carrying these burdens? Sometimes, the greatest act of rebellion isn't making noise, it's eliminating in silence everything that doesn't add value to your existence. Toxic relationships gone, self-destructive habits eliminated. And no, you don't need to make a spectacle of it or wait for anyone's approval. Today, I'm going to teach you to follow the wisdom of Stoic philosophy, let go of what you cannot control, and free yourself. Because, my friend, life is too short to remain trapped by the expectations of others, by the weight of what no longer serves you, by the chains of your own making. I'm going to show you, step by step, how to eliminate 12 things that, without a doubt, are turning your life into chaos. Not just physical chaos, but mental and emotional turmoil as well. These things are destroying you before you even realize it, and if you don't act, you could lose something far more important: your peace, your purpose, your very sense of self. That's why you need to start today in silence and without excuses. In the end, what you leave behind says more about you than what you try to hold on to. Are you ready to start truly living? Before we begin, pay attention to this story that will help you understand the wisdom contained in this material. In a small coastal village lived a young fisherman named Thomas. He was known for his skill in navigating the most turbulent waters and his incredible ability to fish on the most difficult days. However, over the years, Thomas had accumulated a vast amount of broken nets and tools that he no longer used, but out of pure habit he kept them. Every time he set out to sea, the space in his small boat was filled with things that hindered his work. One day, while preparing for a long journey on the ocean, a fierce storm formed. The waves battered his boat, and he realized that the excess of things he was carrying enormously hindered his ability to maneuver. For hours, he fought against the storm, but felt that it wasn't just the waves that were his enemy, it was the unnecessary cargo he carried. On the verge of despair, Thomas made a difficult but necessary decision. He began to get rid of what didn't serve him. First, he threw overboard the broken nets, then the old worn ropes, and finally even some objects he kept out of attachment, but that weren't useful. With each thing he released, his boat became lighter and he could maneuver better. The waves continued strong, but Thomas no longer felt trapped by the weight of the past. Thanks to this decision, he managed to stay afloat, and finally, when the storm passed, he returned to port. He was exhausted but safe. When his fellow fishermen saw him return, they asked how he had survived the storm. Thomas, with a calm smile, replied, "There are moments in life when we cling to things we don't need, objects, memories, or people, that only add weight to our journey. Only when we decide to let go of the unnecessary in silence and without drama do we find the freedom to move forward with ease." The moral of this story is that in life there are many things we need to eliminate in silence to move forward. Sometimes the load we carry prevents us from navigating with lightness, and only by releasing that weight can we discover our true path. So let's begin. If you find this type of content valuable, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated. Let's start. 1. The fear of other people's opinions. Have you ever stopped to wonder how many decisions in your life were made out of fear of what others might think? This fear that seeps under your skin, that prevents you from being yourself. It's like living on a continuous stage under the critical gaze of an audience that in reality isn't even paying attention to you. You know why? Most of the time people are too busy dealing with their own insecurities to judge you, yet you paralyze yourself. The fear of others' judgment is like a silent parasite that feeds on your dreams, that clings to your back and whispers in your ear every time you think of doing something different or daring. What will others think? And suddenly, you change direction, adapting your life to what you believe others expect from you. What irony! We spend so much time worried about others' opinions that without realizing it, we stop living the life we really want. This fear pushes us to please people who often aren't even truly part of our lives, as if our compass were misaligned. Instead of following the north of our intuition, we follow the south dictated by society. You wear the mask that best fits the expectations of the moment at work, with friends, even on social media. But what about the real you? The one hidden under layers of false smiles and borrowed opinions. Sometimes the fear of what they'll say is even more subtle. It disguises itself as prudence. It's not the right time. Maybe I'm not good enough. Excuses masked as wisdom that deep down hide the same monster, the fear of others' judgment. And meanwhile, dreams remain filed away, waiting for a better moment that never comes. To eliminate this fear once and for all, we need to practice Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach that we cannot control what others think of us, but we can control how we react to it. It sounds simple, but it's not. It requires constant exercise of introspection and courage. It's about learning to live for yourself, to make decisions that make you happy, not just to please others. Life is too short to be lived under the shadow of others' opinions. A good exercise is to start eliminating in silence things that don't bring value to your life, those that are only there to please others. Do you feel obligated to maintain a certain image? Did you choose a career that doesn't satisfy you because it seemed like the right choice? Free yourself from these chains. Start with small decisions. Say no to commitments you don't want to assume. Do something you've always wanted but were afraid to do because of what others might think. Each small action will be a step toward freedom. I won't lie, it's not easy. There will be days when the weight of others' judgment seems crushing. But in those moments, remember, every time you choose to live according to what others think, you lose a piece of who you really are. It's a kind of slow, silent death that you can avoid if you have the courage to be true to yourself. So start eliminating these things in silence. You don't need to announce it to the world. Just let go of what isn't yours, what doesn't belong to your essence. Learn to trust your own judgment and to value what you think of yourself more than what others might think. Because at the end of the day, the only person you owe explanations to is yourself. As Carl Jung said, freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think of you. So ask yourself right now, what am I holding on to just because I'm afraid of others' opinions? What decision have I been postponing because I fear judgment? Identify it and make a commitment to yourself today. Start letting go. Start living for you. 2. Toxic relationships. There's a phrase I love: there's no worse blind person than one who doesn't want to see. I'm sure you've heard it, right? Curiously, many times we apply this selective blindness to our own relationships. We get used to dealing with people who somehow take more from us than they give. Yes, I'm talking about those toxic relationships that, without you realizing it, drain your energy little by little. And what's most curious, many times you cling to them as if they were indispensable. I'm not just referring to romantic relationships. Toxic relationships can be anywhere, in family and friend groups, at work. And what's most interesting is that nobody forces you to maintain them. But there you are, tolerating in silence, as if letting go were an affront to the world. Why do we do this? Perhaps because we were taught that breaking ties is a sign of weakness or insensitivity, as if eliminating someone from your life were an act of cruelty, when in reality it could be the greatest gesture of self-love you could perform. Let's bring some philosophy into this conversation. The Stoics teach us that we shouldn't worry about what we cannot control. This also applies to the people around us. You cannot control how others act, but you can control whether or not you want to keep them in your life. Sounds simple, but here's the hard part: doing it in silence. And don't misunderstand me. It's not about silent revenge or feeling superior. It's simply a conscious decision not to feed a relationship that drains you anymore. Think about it. You don't need drama to eliminate what doesn't serve you. You don't need to announce to the world that you're detoxifying from people. Just let go. It's like stopping watering a plant that no longer flourishes. You do it calmly, knowing that it's no longer part of your garden, and that's okay. The plant goes its way, you go yours, and life continues. Has it ever happened that you spend time with someone, even someone close, and you leave that interaction completely exhausted? It's not that the person is bad, but their energy doesn't match yours. That's where the key comes in, detecting these relationships. Listen to your body, your mind. If you feel that each interaction with a certain person is a true emotional marathon, you may be in a toxic relationship. It can be painful to admit, but it's necessary. Here enters the strategy of silence. Gradually reduce interactions. Stop seeking contact. Distance yourself. No grand gestures or fights are necessary. Just stop being available. It's liberating, believe me, not because you're turning your back on the world, but because you're prioritizing your well-being. Sometimes self-love isn't saying no out loud, but saying enough in silence. So how do you identify these relationships? It's simple. If every time you see a message from this person, you feel a knot in your stomach, if going out with them leaves you more exhausted than an entire week of work, if you notice that it's always you who gives and never receives, you already have your answer. When this becomes clear, begin the elimination process without drama, without unnecessary explanations. Just move forward. Conclusion. It's not about being cruel or holding grudges. It's about respecting yourself enough not to allow them to continue draining the energy you could use with people and activities that truly nourish you. In the end, the key is being honest with yourself and putting your well-being above guilt or fear of hurting others. Keep this clear, my friend. Some people are like the wind. You feel them, but you can't hold on to them. You just need to let them pass. 3. Self-destructive habits. Sometimes you catch yourself doing small things that, if you look closely, you know aren't taking you anywhere. These are those actions that seem harmless at first, but without you noticing, they're wearing down your mental or physical peace. I, too, have fallen into this trap more times than I'd like to admit. Small, self-destructive habits that go unnoticed, like a constant drip that over time wears away even rock. But what happens when these habits are the rocks of our daily life? How do we eliminate them without making a scene? First, you need to recognize them. And that's the trick. It's one thing to point out what bothers us in others, but identifying it in ourselves is different. You wake up in the morning and without thinking, you grab your phone. Not for something important, of course, but out of pure habit, as if your finger were programmed to swipe the screen before your brain has even awakened. Seems harmless, right? Until you realize you've lost 20 minutes of your morning immersed in nothing, with your mind already saturated before even leaving bed. This is just one example. We do this with so many other things. That extra coffee that wasn't necessary, that conversation you knew you shouldn't have had, that series that doesn't add anything to you but you keep watching out of inertia. These are the small things that over time can create a big hole in your well-being. Now, eliminating these habits is another story. Let's be honest. How many times have you promised to leave something behind and ended up doing it even more? Like when you say, starting tomorrow I'll really begin. And then tomorrow comes and it's just another day of excuses. That's where the Stoic mindset shines. These philosophers of ancient Rome believed that great transformations don't happen all at once, but in small, silent steps, almost imperceptible. You don't need to shout to the world that you're going to change or make a grand gesture. You just need to start observing. The key is in awareness. When you notice your hand is going for your phone for no reason, stop. You don't need to throw your phone out the window, although that might be cathartic. Just set it aside and do something else. Something as simple as taking a deep breath and stretching. When you feel like having that third cup of coffee, ask yourself, do I really need this, or is it just habit? If it's just inertia, leave the cup aside. Sometimes it's as simple as that, stopping at the right moment without drama, without needing monumental changes. Eliminating self-destructive habits doesn't mean you're going to become a perfect person overnight. We all have our little internal battles, and that's okay. The question is approaching them with a simple strategy, silence, and consistency, like a drop that instead of wearing down, polishes gradually. And if someday you feel you're not making progress, remember this: what seems like a small effort today over time transforms into a great victory. Perhaps you won't notice the results immediately, but it's like planting a seed. One day, without you noticing it, grows and becomes a tree. The same happens with these small adjustments. So the next time you identify a habit that hurts you more than it helps, eliminate it in silence. You don't need to announce it or make a big show. Just let it go step by step, drop by drop. As Epictetus said, true change doesn't make noise, it simply happens. So start today. Identify one self-destructive habit, just one, and commit to letting it go. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, right now. That's how you begin to reclaim your life. 4. The need to control everything. Have you ever felt that if you don't have absolute control over everything around you, the world will crumble? Stay calm, I understand. We like to believe that if we organize every detail to the millimeter and prevent all unforeseen events, life will be like a perfectly adjusted machine where nothing can go wrong. What an absurd idea, right? But even so, we find ourselves trapped in this mental game, convinced that we can master everything that happens to us. It's a trap, a mirage, and the worst part is that the more we try to cling to control, the more we feel we're losing balance. So I ask you, how about letting go of this obsessive need for control? You know, this mania of wanting everything to be exactly as we imagine? The desire to control everything is nothing more than a mental prison, one we build brick by brick, each time we believe that with enough effort, things will turn out exactly as planned. But you know what happens? The universe doesn't work that way. Stoic philosophy, with its millenary wisdom that remains so relevant, teaches us that the key isn't in controlling what we cannot, but in releasing the unnecessary and focusing on what really depends on us. Think about it. We try to control the weather, others' opinions, people's reactions, the results of our efforts, everything that in reality isn't in our hands. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your hands, a complete waste of energy. Yet we do it constantly. And the worst part, each time something doesn't turn out as we expected, we get frustrated, we get irritated, as if it were a cosmic injustice. What irony, right? Imagine you're carrying a backpack. Each time you try to control something beyond your reach, you put a stone inside it. At first, you might not even feel the weight, but over time, the backpack becomes unbearably heavy. In the end, that load crushes you. Wouldn't it be better to get rid of those stones? To open space for what really matters, for what you really can control, your emotions, your actions, your choices. The rest, let go. For a long time, I myself worried obsessively about predicting everything that could go wrong in my life. If I had a meeting, I'd plan every possible uncomfortable question. If I scheduled an outing with friends, I worried about the place, the weather, anything that could deviate from the plan. It was exhausting. And you know what happened? Most of the things I worried about never happened. In the end, I realized that this attempt to predict everything didn't give me more control. It only gave me more anxiety. So I started letting go little by little. I learned to trust the process more. And what happened? Things continued to happen, some good, others not so much. But I felt lighter because I had stopped carrying what wasn't my responsibility. Trusting in life doesn't mean being passive or irresponsible. It's about accepting with maturity that there are things that are out of our hands, and that's okay. Eliminate in silence this need to control everything. Give space for the unexpected, for surprises, for what is beyond your reach. This doesn't mean you should simply settle and watch life pass by. It's about releasing the weight and accepting that there's a part of the path that doesn't depend on you. And you know what else? This is liberating. Remember, sometimes letting go is the most powerful way to take control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, true control lies in the capacity to release the uncontrollable. So starting today, practice this. When you feel that urge to control something beyond your reach, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. Focus on what you can influence: your attitude, your response, your actions. That's where your true power lies, not in controlling the external world, but in mastering your internal world. That's the essence of Stoicism, and that's how you begin to live with true freedom. 5. Unrealistic expectations. I don't know about you, but I spent a good part of my life believing I needed to be perfect. Nobody told me this directly, but it was in the air, hovering between well-intentioned comments, looks of approval, and that constant silent comparison with others. I grew up with the firm conviction that meeting others' expectations, and worse yet my own, was synonymous with success. What a big lie. If you stop to think, trying to meet unrealistic expectations is like trying to fill a bottomless well with a leaky bucket. You never finish. You're always exhausted, and in the end, all that's left is a sad puddle of frustration at your feet. What's most curious? Many of these expectations aren't even ours. They were built by others, family, friends, society, and we accepted them because in the quest to be better, we decided we needed to meet them. Do a quick exercise. How many times have you felt disappointed for not achieving something you didn't actually want? That's right. We impose goals so high that if we fail, we feel useless. If I'm not the best at my job, the perfect partner, the ideal friend, the exemplary child, what's left of me in the end? These expectations end up weighing more than our own actions. It's like running a marathon with a backpack full of stones. You advance more slowly, you tire sooner, and even if you reach the finish line, you feel you did it, dragging your feet. What's the point? This is where Stoic philosophy comes in with a brilliant vision on this. According to the Stoics, you cannot control what others think of you, nor guarantee that the universe will act in your favor. What you can control is how you react to it. The key then is in reducing the load. Lower those expectations that suffocate you. If you expect less of yourself and others, it doesn't mean you're settling. It means you're freeing yourself. You're no longer trapped by the constant pressure to correspond to the impossible. You're simply existing and moving forward. And of course, this magic doesn't happen overnight. I'm not saying to throw all your expectations out the window at once. Think of it like cleaning out a closet full of old clothes. First, look at what doesn't fit you anymore, what you never really liked, and start getting rid of it one piece at a time. Sometimes you hesitate to let go of a shirt because you think you'll wear it someday, but deep down you know you won't. With expectations, it's the same. Start eliminating those that don't belong to you. Then, review your own and ask yourself, are they realistic? You don't need to keep all of them. Something that can help reduce expectations without creating drama is changing the way you talk to yourself. For example, instead of saying, I need to do everything perfectly, try, I'll do the best I can with what I have now. It sounds simple, but it's liberating. You open space for error, which is human, and for the possibility of improving without the constant pressure. Another foolproof trick: avoid telling everyone your plans. The less noise you make, the fewer expectations others create about what you should achieve. After all, external expectations are just that, noise. Eliminate in silence what doesn't add to you. You'll notice things start to flow much more naturally. Releasing expectations isn't giving up, it's an act of wisdom. Instead of focusing on what you should do or be, concentrate on what you really want and what's under your control. Less expectations, more freedom. Engrave this in your mind, my friend. The less you expect, the lighter you become. 6. The need to always be right. Have you noticed there's an obsession, an almost compulsive need to always be right, to be the person who knows everything? It's as if every conversation were a battlefield, and victory meant proving you're right. A silent but relentless war. The worst part? This war isn't with others, but with yourself. Each time you insist on having the last word, it's as if you needed to convince yourself that your value depends on it. Doesn't that exhaust you? Because honestly, I'm already exhausted from this endless race. We were taught to believe we always need to have the right answer, as if being wrong were synonymous with weakness. Society, social media, even family gatherings reinforce the idea that failing is failing. But I'll tell you a secret: sometimes being right is the least important thing in life. Stoic philosophy teaches us to accept what we cannot control. And you know something? You cannot control others' perception of you. This endless parade to prove you know everything doesn't lead anywhere. It only leaves you more anxious, more frustrated, and at the end of the day, lonelier. Ask yourself, what do I gain by always being right? An invisible medal? It doesn't seem worth the effort, does it? It's like carrying a suitcase full of unnecessary stones. With each discussion or imposed opinion, you put another stone in there until the weight becomes unbearable, and you wonder why you're so exhausted. The answer is simple: you're wearing yourself out for something that has no real value. The next time you feel that urgency to demonstrate you're right, try staying silent, not out of resignation, but out of liberation. It's like releasing a pen you've been holding for hours without realizing it. When you let go, you feel a relief you didn't know you needed. With the need to always be right, the same thing happens. When you release that load, you realize you were trapped in a war you didn't even want to fight. So how do you release this need? Accept that you don't need to know everything. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay not to have a formed opinion about everything. You're not competing in a wisdom contest. Learn to truly listen, not to refute, but to understand. There's a huge difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is a biological function. Listening is an art. When you listen with attention, the anxiety to go or impose your point of view disappears. Appreciate silence. Sometimes, the best argument is simply allowing others to have the last word. Not all conversations need a winner, because in the end, is winning an argument worth it at the cost of your tranquility? Not really. In the next conversation, when you feel that urge to correct or impose your opinion, take a deep breath. Let go of the pen, let it go. The peace you'll feel will be infinitely more valuable than any momentary victory. If it's any consolation, remember the Stoics. They knew that true wisdom isn't in being right, but in knowing when to let go. As Seneca said, true knowledge isn't in winning all battles, but in knowing when not to fight. So starting today, practice this. Choose peace over being right. Choose understanding over victory. Choose silence over noise. That's how you begin to live with true freedom and wisdom. 7. Digital noise. Have you noticed how you're surrounded by digital noise? I'm not just talking about cars on the street or the neighbor drilling the wall, but that other noise. The one in your pocket, in your hands, in your eyes. Social media, endless notifications, messages that don't stop coming. It seems like everything is designed to distract you, to keep you in a constant state of alert. And there you are, thinking you have control, when in reality it's digital chaos that controls you. The reality is, we live in an era where silence is a luxury. But this luxury isn't as unattainable as it seems. The first step is understanding what's really stealing your attention. Because in reality, there are things you should eliminate in silence from your life. And yes, this is possible. It's just not as obvious as it seems. I'll be honest, digital chaos doesn't disappear just because you close an app. That would be like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. What you need is to be radical, like the Stoics, who knew that inner peace was what really mattered. And they didn't achieve it by letting themselves be carried away by external distractions. So, what should you eliminate in silence from your life? Let's go. First, social media. Yes, I know it sounds cliché, but believe me, the more accounts you follow, the more noise you create. I'm not saying to disconnect completely, but think, do you really need to know what your friend's sister's cousin is doing? Eliminate without mercy everything that doesn't add to you. And if you can do a digital cleanup from time to time, like organizing a closet, take out what no longer fits, what should never have been. And there in the first place, second notifications. Here's where it gets interesting. Why do you allow your phone to interrupt you every 2 minutes? Each time it vibrates or emits a sound, your brain gives a jump. This doesn't just steal your time, but also your mental energy. Deactivate all non-essential notifications. At first, you might feel a certain anxiety, as if you're missing something. But later, when you realize how good it is to have control over when and how you check your phone, you'll thank me. Third, the fear of missing out. The great modern villain. We live with the sensation that if we're not connected, we'll miss something important. But here's an uncomfortable truth. What really matters isn't on the screen, it's around you. In the people, in the moments that pass unnoticed while you're glued to the latest viral meme. Eliminate this fear. Release the need to be in everything, because the more you try to embrace the digital world, the more you lose what's really worthwhile. Once you get rid of this unnecessary noise, something magical happens. You start to hear what really matters. Digital silence is the first step to reconnect with yourself, with your ideas, with your true priorities. This is where Stoic philosophy comes into play. You cannot control what happens outside you, but you can decide how you react to it. When you eliminate digital noise, everything else becomes clearer. My advice is this: choose silence, not as an absence of noise, but as a conscious presence of what you really want in your life. Because in the end, this is the true luxury of our era. As Gandhi said, peace doesn't come when noise fades, but when you decide to listen to yourself. So starting today, take back control. Put your phone on silent, turn off notifications, limit your screen time. And most importantly, reconnect with the real world, the one that exists beyond the screen. 8. Negative thoughts. Have you stopped to notice how negative thoughts enter your mind almost without making noise, like someone who means no harm? They appear and suddenly they're in command of everything. They're like those neighbors who arrive without warning and worse, don't leave. What's most frustrating? Many times you hand them the key, not because you want to, but because they've convinced you their presence is inevitable a part of your daily life. But what if I told you that you can change the locks? Let's speak clearly. These thoughts are nothing more than destructive patterns that end up shaping your actions, and not in the best way, certainly. You've probably caught yourself thinking things like, why does everything go wrong for me, or I'll never make it? And of course, when these thoughts repeat over and over, you end up believing them. And what you believe, you end up acting out. It's like planting a poison tree and then wondering why the fruits aren't edible. What's curious is that these negative thoughts don't necessarily reflect reality, but they feel as real as the ground you walk on. This is where Stoic philosophy enters with its brutal simplicity. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. It sounds so simple, but in practice, it's something that frequently escapes us. We allow these mental patterns to dictate our emotions and actions, when true freedom lies in taking the reins of our responses. And where do you start? The first key is silence. Yes, you read that right. Eliminate in silence these negative thoughts. You don't need to make a spectacle trying to push them away. Just start recognizing when they appear. Identify them and don't feed them. The more attention you give them, the more power they have. Think about it like a fly in the room. If you obsess over catching it, you'll only agitate it more. How about ignoring it until it gets tired of flying? Second, question your thoughts. When a destructive thought appears, ask yourself, is this true? Is everything really going wrong, or is it just an exaggerated perception? Many, Sometimes you'll realize they're inflated ideas without any real basis. And if there's some truth, you can start thinking about solutions instead of staying trapped in the problem. Third, detachment. I'm not saying you should become a monk on a mountaintop, but start taking emotional distance from your thoughts. They aren't you. Just because something passes through your head doesn't mean it needs to stay there. This requires practice, but little by little, you'll learn to see them for what they really are: clouds in a sky that remains firm. Negative thoughts are one of those small things you should eliminate in silence from your life. They don't need fanfare, just careful focus, patience, and internal questioning. Because at the end of the day, what you think shapes what you do, and what you do defines who you are. As Brian Tracy said, thoughts aren't facts, but if you believe in them, they become your reality. So starting today, take control of your thoughts. Don't let them control you. 9. Physical and mental clutter. Sometimes it happens that we wake up and feel the world is a bit heavier than normal. You look around and realize it's not just a feeling. Your space is loaded with things: objects, piles of papers, clothes thrown on the chair, and somehow your head also feels like a disorganized drawer. I don't know if this happens to you, but when my surroundings are a mess, I feel my mind follows the same path. Physical and mental clutter, although it may not seem more connected than we'd like to admit, there's something deeply exhausting about the disorder around us. Our disorganized space directly affects our mental clarity. The Stoics, for example, spoke about the importance of focusing on the essential, of eliminating the superfluous. And if you think about it, clutter is exactly the opposite of that. It's everything that's unnecessary, that distracts us and takes us away from what matters. The accumulation of things doesn't just occupy physical space, but also consumes energy. Each object out of place, each paper that should have been thrown away months ago, each thing blocking your path, all of this isn't just accumulated material. It's noise. A noise that keeps filling the mind with small, pending tasks and worries you didn't even know you had. You know that feeling of wanting to organize something but not even knowing where to start? That's the secret. It's not about organizing everything at once, but about eliminating in silence what no longer serves. The first step is simple: observe. Look around and ask yourself, do I really need all this? If you haven't used something in a long time, you probably don't need it anymore. But it's not just about material things. Mental clutter works the same way. Sometimes we accumulate thoughts, worries, and feelings like someone who keeps broken objects thinking they'll be useful someday. The truth is, keeping all this only weighs us down. So what to do? Eliminate in silence, little by little. You don't need to make a big spectacle of it or announce it to the world. Just let go of what no longer serves, both in the physical and the mental. Sometimes silence is an act of rebellion in a world full of noise. If there are people in your life who cause you discomfort, projects that no longer motivate you, thoughts that only drain you, get rid of them. Without drama, without explanations, without going in more circles than necessary. Just let them go. The exterior reflects the interior. Remember that many times external order reflects internal order. If you start bringing a bit of clarity to your surroundings, you'll see that little by little, that clarity will also arrive in your mind. It's not magic, it's a process. It's like when you decide to clean a drawer and suddenly feel lighter. Because in the end, each thing in its place is one less worry. Each object you release is a step toward a lighter, clearer life. The Stoics didn't complicate their lives with the unnecessary. They knew the key was focusing on what really mattered and letting the rest pass. As simple as that. Living in a world full of physical and mental clutter is like walking in a labyrinth with no exit. But when you start getting rid of what you don't need, you discover the exit was always there. You just couldn't see it because of the excess. If you want mental peace, start organizing what's around you. Do it without haste, without noise, but consistently. Your mind will thank you. As Nelson Mandela said, when noise quiets down the essential, becomes clearer. So starting today, commit to this. Take 15 minutes to organize one area of your space, just one, and notice how you feel afterward. That's the power of eliminating in silence. 10. Unnecessary comparisons. Sometimes I wonder why you have this habit of comparing yourself to others. Come on, don't give me excuses. We all do it. But tell me, do you really think this serves any purpose? It's like running in a race where the others don't even know they're participating. And the worst part, they probably don't even care. Meanwhile, there you are in your head, measuring every step, every stumble, every small advance. But not yours, others. Comparing yourself is like trying to win a singing contest using someone else's voice. It doesn't make sense. You have your own melody, your own rhythm, but you insist on following someone else's sheet music. The problem is this seemingly harmless habit gradually undermines your self-esteem. You wake up one day feeling you're not good enough, not fast enough, not enough at something, all because you're too busy looking sideways instead of focusing on what's in front of you. The truth is, life isn't a speed race. It's more like a boat crossing. You choose the course, the stops, and the pace. But if you're too concentrated on the boats passing by you, what you achieve is just veering off your own rudder. What's most curious? While you watch someone else's boat, they're probably doing the same with yours. That's how this absurd comparison works. Everyone looks at others, but nobody enjoys their own journey. Stop comparing yourself and do it in silence. Eliminate this practice as one of the things you take out of your life without making a fuss. It's like getting rid of an old shirt you don't wear anymore. Nobody needs to know, but you'll feel the difference. Comparing yourself to others isn't just useless, it's a betrayal against yourself. It's like telling your inner self that it's not enough, that you need to be someone else to be worth something. But think carefully, this philosophy doesn't make sense. The Stoics already said it, the only valid comparison is with who you were yesterday. So what do you do when comparison starts? Don't try to silence the voice. Question it. When you notice that internal voice starts comparing, listen to what it says, but question its logic. Why are you comparing yourself to this person? What exactly makes you feel inferior? Remember what you've already accomplished. Take a pause and reflect on your own progress and achievements. Many times we forget how much we've already walked when we're constantly looking at others. Another strategy that works is practicing gratitude. Yes, I know it sounds like beaten advice, but I guarantee it's powerful. Be grateful for what you have, for what you achieved, for who you are. When you focus on what you have, instead of what you lack or what others possess, something changes. Suddenly, the weight of comparison starts to disappear, and you realize the only path that matters is yours. Life is too short to waste time competing in an imaginary race with others. Comparing yourself only distracts you from what really matters, living your life at your pace with your own rules. And when you start doing this, you realize how liberating it is. My friend, I'll leave you with a reflection that helped me a lot in the most difficult moments. When you stop seeing yourself through others' eyes, you discover who you really are. 11. The victim mentality. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself blaming everything and everyone for your problems? The government, your boss, your parents, your circumstances, your bad luck? If you answered yes, you're not alone. We've all fallen into the trap of victim mentality at some point. But here's the truth. As long as you see yourself as a victim, you'll never take control of your life. You'll be forever at the mercy of external forces, waiting for someone or something to come save you. Victim mentality is one of the most dangerous things you can carry in your life. It's like a poison that slowly kills your power, your agency, your ability to create change. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus was born a slave, yet he never saw himself as a victim. He recognized what was within his control, his thoughts, his responses, his character, and he focused all his energy there. He didn't waste time lamenting what he couldn't change. Instead, he became one of the most influential philosophers in history. So how do you eliminate victim mentality? First, you need to take radical responsibility for your life. This doesn't mean everything that happens to you is your fault. Of course not. Bad things happen to good people all the time, but what is always your responsibility is how you respond. You can choose to collapse and blame the world, or you can choose to stand up and ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? What's my next move? Second, stop the blame game. Every minute you spend blaming someone or something is a minute you're not spending on solutions. It's wasted energy. The Stoics would say, why expend energy on what you cannot control when you could be focusing on what you can? When something goes wrong, instead of asking, whose fault is this? Ask, what can I do about it? This simple shift in questions transforms you from a passive victim into an active creator of your life. Third, recognize your power. You are far more powerful than you think. You have the power to choose your attitude, your effort, your perspective. No one can take that from you unless you give it away. Every day you wake up, you have the power to choose how you'll show up in the world. That's not a small thing, that's everything. So stop giving your power away to circumstances, to other people, to the past. Reclaim it, own it, use it. Eliminating victim mentality doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily choice to see yourself as the author of your story rather than a character in someone else's. It requires courage, honesty, and commitment, but I promise you, once you shed this mentality, once you truly internalize that you are responsible for your life, everything changes. You become unstoppable. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you stop waiting for permission to rise, you just do it. 12. The addiction to busy. Finally, let's talk about something that affects almost everyone in modern society. The addiction to being busy. We wear busyness like a badge of honor. How are you? Busy. So busy, as if being overwhelmed is a sign of importance, of value, of success. But here's the uncomfortable truth: busyness is often just a sophisticated form of laziness. It's easier to be busy than to be purposeful. It's easier to fill your calendar with endless tasks than to sit down and ask what really matters. The Stoics valued intentionality over activity. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, would regularly retreat into solitude to think, to write, to reflect. He understood that clarity requires space, that wisdom requires stillness, that the important is often crowded out by the urgent if you're not careful. Being constantly busy is a way of avoiding the deeper questions of life. Who am I? What do I value? What legacy am I creating? Am I living aligned with my principles? These questions require space, quiet introspection. But if you're always rushing from one thing to the next, you never have to face them. Busyness becomes a convenient escape from the work of living deliberately. So how do you eliminate this addiction? First, audit your life ruthlessly. Look at how you spend your time. How much of it is actually necessary? How much is just noise? How much are you doing out of obligation, guilt, or habit, rather than genuine importance? Be honest. You'll probably find that a significant portion of your busyness serves no real purpose. Second, learn to say no. We already talked about this, but it bears repeating. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. Protect your time like the precious resource it is. Don't let others fill your calendar with their priorities while your own go neglected. Third, schedule time for nothing. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. The most productive, successful, fulfilled people aren't those who pack every minute with activity. They're those who make space for rest, for reflection, for creativity. Some of your best ideas won't come when you're working. They'll come when you're walking, staring out a window, sitting in silence. But those moments can't happen if you're constantly busy. Finally, shift from measuring your worth by how much you do to measuring it by the quality of what you do and who you're becoming. 1 hour of deep, focused work on something meaningful is worth more than 10 hours of distracted busyness. One conversation where you're fully present is worth more than 10 where you're mentally elsewhere. Choose depth over breadth. Choose quality over quantity. Choose purpose over activity. In conclusion, living without complications, eliminating in silence the things that don't serve you, is one of the most powerful practices you can adopt. It's not about dramatic announcements or seeking approval. It's about quietly, intentionally, ruthlessly removing everything that clutters your life, your mind, your spirit. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago, and their wisdom remains as relevant as ever. What you carry matters less than what you're willing to let go. So start today. Choose one thing from this list and commit to releasing it. Then choose another and another. Little by little, you'll find that the life you're creating isn't just simpler. It's fuller, richer, more aligned with who you truly are. That's the promise, that's the path. And it starts with a single decision to let go in silence. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this resonated with you, if you found value in these principles, I encourage you to share this message with someone who might need it. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 12 things spoke to you most strongly. And remember, you don't need to announce your transformation to the world. Just quietly, powerfully begin. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your peace be the evidence of your progress. Until next time, stay strong, stay intentional, and remember the power to change your life has always been within you. You just need to use it.